All right then. Let's see if my audio is working. Yeah, looks like it. So not much doing. Um, let's go ahead and install FreeBSD on this P4 machine, which I just showed earlier this week, last week I think. So powering it on, and you should see the BIOS come up. There you go, and loading boot menu. So already prepared a USB boot drive for FreeBSD, and this is a fairly advanced BIOS for the time P4 was made in. It has support for your USB boot, so we will go ahead and put that. And the problem with my current capture device is it doesn't show the the bootload output for something like FreeBSD or OpenBSD. For some reason, OpenBSD is even worse because it won't show after the OS has booted. So right now, the bootloader screen is on, but you can't see anything because for some reason my VGA to HDMI converter doesn't like it. So, and I'm stuck with the VGA port on this machine. So, looking into getting an HDMI output on this machine somehow. I don't know, but that will be soon. So if I press enter, you will now be able to see FreeBSD load up in a second. And there you go. It kind of working. Like you can see some of the text is cut off on the extreme left edge. But that's about it. And once the UI actually takes over, it looks fine. Um, the issue is being worked out. So yeah, this is mouse D on FreeBSD, which actually, like, you can have mouse in your terminal emulator, not even terminal emulator, like if you on your frame buffer, without running X or anything, like the actual console frame buffer has mouse support for some reason. um, so yeah, we will go ahead and select install. We'll go with the US key map if there is one, because sometimes it doesn't select the key map properly and we end up in an issue. So looking for United States, uh, we'll name it something. P4BSD over that, and install everything. Now this does have a PCI Wi-Fi card in there, a pretty decent one, N300, and you can see it detected that. Luckily, we seem to have the driver as well. So nope, and it will scan, and hopefully we get a hit. Let's see. Yep, we can see my Wi-Fi down there. And that should help us connect. IPv6 is not needed. DNS seems fine. We'll go with the main file. I'll do auto UFS and use the larger 500 gig disk, since the smaller one is, I'm kind of saving it for another OS. Use the entire disk. Do we want to proceed? Yes. EMBR would be fine. And you can see we have around 462 gigs of UFS and the other is swap. So that seems good. Finish and commit. So this will take some time. Till then, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And A13 Tech, yes, it's kind of just the installation procedure right now, but I'll go through installing XOR, configuring that, and stuff like that. So, in the meantime, I can show everyone my mouse that I'm using, which is very different. I made it using Arduino. I still have to do like a proper um, I still have to do like a proper video on it, but I will create a new scene and switch it so I can show you guys in like full res. Uh, let's see. If I make this larger, you can see me, and you can also see the mouse. So basically a joystick kind of a situation, but you can see on the screen there's the mouse, so I can move the joystick up and down, and these two are the clicks left and right, and that scroll. So I'll do a proper video on it. There is a example that I heavily modified to make this more user friendly and more act like more like a mouse and less like a dev board. But this is what I will be using with the retro stuff. And yeah, let's see if I can make myself any smaller. There you go. Yeah, the bell has quite a delay. As I said, there will be a black screen for a second. And now we just wait. So, on the more interesting things, the video capture system is kind of weird. What I'm doing is I have a VGA to HDMI converter, and then I convert that. I use a HDMI capture card, and it's a Linux friendly HDMI capture card, so that uses like that kind of shows itself up as a USB webcam. It uses the UVC driver, so you can actually just use any generic Linux installation no driver needed and use VLC, OBS, whatever you want. I'm using OBS right now. The problem is the VGA to HDMI converter is not that intelligent or well so thought out. It does 1080p output, but input is very limited. So 1600 by 900 is the native resolution of my monitor, doesn't really work out. Now, the other resolutions sometimes work, sometimes don't. It's kind of iffy, and you can see the whole color thing is weird. But I mean, that's the thing with getting like VGA signals is just analog. So that's why instead of buying an expensive scan converter, which is the proper solution to most of this, I really want to just uh, get a decent HDMI card, maybe even if it's not like a GPU, full blown GPU. I just want to get a regular card that gives me HDMI out so that I can connect everything through it. But I'm having a hard time finding anything that does PCI non-express and has a HDMI port. So it's kind of I'm kind of stuck with this. Scan converters are kind of expensive, so I don't really want to go that route. unless this kind of takes off and I get hundreds or thousands of views, which I doubt is going to happen. Yeah, so I go ahead and I search HDMI PCI card, and it's a very difficult thing to search for because PCI usually returns PCIe. No one cares about PCI anymore. Um, yeah, we're almost done with the downloads, which is nice. And yeah, everything's just PCI Express. So maybe when I'm not in India, I can take a look at what I can get elsewhere, or have someone buy one for me and keep. And the capture card is actually pretty good. You can get really clear, uh, full HD 60 FPS output from it. Games look nice, smooth, stuff like that. And there you go. So it's checking the checksums, and once it's done, it will extract them, and we can get on with our lives then to more interesting stuff. A lot of it is wait and watch. Now, so I was originally planning to do FreeBSD, and then whatever the FreeBSD installer kind of output, it didn't really capture anything at all. It was weird. Again, as I said in the beginning, the capture, the HDMI to VG, the VGA to HDMI converter is kind of bonkers. So yeah, the free I really wanted to do FreeBSD because its UI is kind of retro-esque, which is like the pure, uh, pure old school, pure Xorg stuff. They give you very bare metal stuff. It looks retro. Uh, FreeBSD is much more recent. So, but why install FreeBSD and not another OS? So, my plan is first install a BSD based system, which is this one. I have another hard drive in the system which will get either Alpine Linux or Arc, like proper pure Arc Linux, which will be all typed down and installed. Um, and then I might do Windows 95, 98, or even IBM OS 2 because I am adding a ID to SD card in there. So I can have like a 32 gig SD card that has Windows 95. I can change that for another SD card that maybe has OS 2 Warp. That's IBM's stuff. Haiku didn't really boot for some reason. Like the bootloader kind of, you can just see the pen drive flashing away for a long time and then nothing. So I think the Haiku installer might not work on this machine. It's too old. No one might have tested it. Apart from that, let me know which other operating systems there are to try. There might be Android as well. I'll just do a live boot. It's not going to be smooth. The GPU on this only supports like up to OpenGL 1.4. So it is Intel integrated 915 series GPU. It's on the separate Northbridge chipset, so that's a part of the motherboard, not the CPU itself. I was looking into getting some external GPUs, but the ones we have here is like the Rage XL, which is only OpenGL 1.1, so the GPU on board is actually much better than the Rage XL, so there's no point. Yes, I know the YouTuber called One. I don't know how to pronounce that. We've had some conversations in the past when I was very active on YouTube, and he does come up uh, you know, very often. And it's a name I have heard after a very long time. So I'm searching the YouTuber right now, and I want to see what he's up to these days. Let's see. Oh, he's got quite a few subscribers now. Interesting. Yep, yep. IBM OS to Warp. Huh, he's been doing some decent retro stuff lately. Yep, old Windows stuff. I think I know him from the time when I used to do Windows like 95, 98 on the Raspberry Pi, that whole emulation thing. And that's when we crossed path back in the day. He has a fair bit of hardware. Again, taking cues even from his videos, like stuff like React would be interesting to run on this. I mean, it's not a very old system, like it's not really, really retro. Or what I really wanted to do was get a 486 or something, and then I would have gone for like 3.1, stuff like that. More phone OS on a iBook G4. I have a iBook G4 right now, and it's not a happy iBook G4. So I might be looking into obtaining another G4 based system or G5, whichever one I get my hands on. Yeah, some pretty decent videos and a good collection of hardware. Yep, I remember now seeing some of his older videos. Like at 4 years ago, I'm just scrolling down his channel. SSD in a G3, remember watching that one, and 1000 subscriber milestone. I remember that one. Yeah, it was a pretty neat following there. Yep, networking was quite a pain. So my original goal behind getting a very old system was to run it and do videos on it as a proof of concept that with open source operating systems, may it be FreeBSD, Linux, or any other BSD for that matter, you can run really, really recent software on some really, really old hardware. Like I've already done videos of running the latest Linux kernel on the 486, and that was not a proper 486, that was like a chopped down FPG implementation of 486. So a 486 DX these days would be able to run pretty much everything open source. Everything latest would run. Again, those things won't run things like Windows 10 or or even like a very basic version of the Windows 10 kernel, because no one really supports that, but in the Linux world support stays on. So that was kind of my motive behind originally getting a 486, was to just have a system that would boot the latest Linux kernel. Uh, I now have a P4, which is good enough. It's still an old system. In a way, it's retro because it's the first 64-bit platform from Intel. And yep, so luckily we've done with a lot of installation bit. Now we are asked for a root password, so I'll happily provide them with a root password, a very simple one or a hard one, let's say. And there we go. I don't know what the CMOS clock is set to, so I'll set Asia and India, and that seems nice. Don't want local caching, want mouse D, want NTP date, NPDPD, and power D. Don't want any of that. And I would like to add a user to this account. Yeah, we'll go with a simple password for this one. We'll just default, 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 default. And lock out the account after creation. Nope. Yes and no. So there we are. I think it's done. Let's exit and wait for it to sync disks and all of that good stuff. Let's see, nothing on the hard drive activity, which is concerning. I'm sure it's doing something. If it's failed, then well, things will have to wait. So the FPGA board, the entire gigabyte of, it was actually 512 megabytes if I remember correctly, but the entire gigabyte of memory was not exposed to the 486, and so there were a few problems with that implementation with the FPGA base 486, which is in the Mr. Project. uh, that particular 486 was just the 486 core implemented in the FPGA, and everything else, networking, keyboard, mouse, USB, all of that, even the display, was using the box emulator. So only the core of the 486 was in the FPGA, everything else was emulated under Linux. And it had limited memory of 128 megabytes. I think that is what I set it to, and you can add any hard drive you want, file, floppies, and all of that stuff. The other limitation was it didn't have a floating point configuration, um, floating point unit added to it, so the DX part was missing, which is required by a lot of uh, like current generation Linux programs. Like Python works somewhat without it, but stuff like Nano, HTOP, and all of those require floating point stuff to work, and that wasn't being emulated properly for some reason. And that kind of made it difficult to run anything meaningful. Even under Linux, it would just boot, the kernel would work fine, it would boot, some basic stuff worked fine, and then that's it. Anything meaningful, you'll run into a kernel panic with the floating point stuff, error all over the place. That was an issue, so yeah. Alright, so that is installed. It is in our primary hard drive. So if we press enter, we should now boot into FreeBSD. Of course, I can see the bootloader and you can't because of the stupid VG to HDMI converter. If I press enter, you should soon see everything come up. There it is. So that's the installed version of FreeBSD. As far as I know, my Wi-Fi settings should be saved. If not, I'll have to go through and configure everything, which is always a PITA. So looks like it is. It just connected. I can see it on the log there. Right, it's getting the time from the servers, which is nice. Oops, did we just disconnect? That shows I'm streaming. Oh, wait, just waiting it to boot. Kind of slow. Alright, so it's generating the RSA host keys. That might take a while. Sleeping for retry. Don't do that. Should have just left the host name blank. Yeah, we will. It will time out and do its thing. Just weird, but okay. Um, right. What was I talking about? What was something I was talking about? Yeah. Anyway, the we don't have LSPCI on FreeBSD, I think. So there should be another way to show. Oh, we have LSPCI on FreeBSD. Why was I not thinking about that? Yeah, this is right. Now it kind of just came back. Mm, right. So login with root. Um, what else? Ping. Let's see if we are connected. We are. And let's top not installed. We have top installed. We have lspci command not found. Oh no, lspci command not found. So I think what is it? Port snap pkg install. Let's try. I'm just doing this to initiate pkg. Probably should have updated that first, but okay. And we are setting up the initial package. So you can see the first letter of every line is missing, which like uh, it's bad. I really need to change that VJ to HDMI converter. I don't know if anyone has any experience with VJ to HDMI converters. I'd like to know. Add in the comments if you've ever used one and had this issue. Problem is I'm doing VJ to HDMI and then HDMI to UVC, so there could be a couple of things down the line, but I think the VJ to HDMI converter is to blame. Okay. Stop. Now works. So of course a single core system. Let's see LSPCI so that come on. The the FreeBSD man page shows LSPCI. Oh, it's in PCI utils and not the LSPCI command itself. Akt install PCI utils. Oops. Yep, there we go. And LSPCI should work now. Yeah, HDMI to VGA is easy because all you need to do is get an entire frame digitally, and then you can just generate VGA like analog signals. Sometimes even using PWM. But with VGA to HDMI, it's more complex. It's like you are capturing an entire analog frame with reference to a digital time clock kind of a thing, and then you need to take that entire frame into a buffer, then convert that entire frame into an HDMI signal output, and there's so much in between. Like VGA is, it's a confused port which doesn't know if it's analog or it's digital. Like it acts as a digital thing, but its transmission and its whole the actually how it internally works is all analog. So yeah, Amazon has good converters. I've been through many. It's like for this particular task, nothing seems to be working. So LSPCI V. There we go. So we have a lot of things in there. I would like to show what all. So first we have is the memory controller, which is again in the north bridge of the system, and that's where all the PCI breaks out. So you can see we have the Intel 82915G, 90GL, 910GL integrated graphics controller. This is the GPU we have. Doesn't seem to be looked at. And then we have our audio controller, followed by that seems to be loaded, followed by our USB controller, another like four USB controller for the four USB ports, PCI bridge for the three PCI ports, ISA bridge. I think there's an ISA port that didn't solder or something and it just shows up, and an IDE interface which actually has a SATA controller on it, SM bus, and 50K modem. There is a modem on the PCI bridge installed. I haven't removed it just because our Wi-Fi controller, which is the Qualcomm Atheros one, I can actually use this to point it, which is fun. Like you can't do this in Linux. In FreeBSD, you can just use a mouse and be like, oh, look at all that stuff. So yeah, and the FireWire port, which is it internally has a FireWire port, which is amazing. But let's install um, some UI. So I might have to Google this. So I think we need basically XOR, and we need whatever environment we want. Of course, I'm not going to put GNOME or KDE on it. Xface is possibility. So XFCE, or I don't even know about. I want to do LXDE. I don't know if it's available. It should be. I've seen I've run FreeBSD with LXDE before. So forget what I just said. Um, we need xorg or do we need xdm? I think we need xdm and it will install xorg. Let's see. Uh-huh. Installing xorg. So we need xorg. The x should be small, and then xdm. I think it will be installed on its own, but and lxde should be with lxde meta package. Isn't it? So start it all and wait for it. Oh, so we are going to download 360 megabytes. That sounds okay. Enter. Let's see, Control Alt F2. Do we? Yep, we get a new terminal. Right. What else I want to do while we are there is to start setting stuff up for LXDE because it would require a few things like proc to be enabled, the to be mounted, um, dbus as well, although it doesn't say in the LXDE org manual, but since GNOME requires it and XFCE requires it, I'm pretty sure LXDE requires dbus. So what we need to do is first enable proc. So we go into, so we don't have nano but we have vi slash etc fstab of course, and oops, so we go proc fs and hit right 0 0. That should do it. So that is proc enabled. We also need to set some environment variables in our Zenit RC before we use LXDE. So we'll just create Zenit RC skin. We don't have nano vi. Now let's go and do export. LC all now. I don't know if you can copy anything. Can you just do this? See, nope. Nope, you can't, so I'll have to type everything else. Okay, export. Language. And another one more to go. Wow, am I really not displaying anything with VI opened up? Which is so weird. Oh no, I can. I am. Oh, it's most of it is just cut out, right? I think it cuts out another like top layer for it, and you can't see the squiggly lines in the VI as well because it's cut out, so it looks like a blank screen. Yep, I definitely need to replace this VGA to HDMI controller. Export blank again equal to n dot pf. I'm wondering, I'm just following the documentation here from lxd.org, but couldn't I have just exported lc underscore all and then just equate language to lc all and lang to language, and that should have worked, but okay. Exec start LXDE, which is of course required. So back in the day, for those of you who don't know, we needed to do this for the Raspberry Pi, and they had a very good instructional video on it. Hello, Yelisa. I hope that's how you pronounce the first name. Alright, so you wanted to know how you can cook 8 a small Linux ISO, boot up with an application that I want to auto boot. Fine, hoping it says for a media player. Um, the best case scenario, at least for me, would be to use something like buildroot to build a very small Linux ISO, and then just either install your application and then add it to whatever init script you're using. Usually it's rc.local or something like that. Right, so we're going to make a bootable image without a run without. Oh, so you want to boot directly to the application. So you put the application on auto run using init.rc and don't have anything else run in the background. So you would need to have, you can't just directly boot into an application, but you can have the OS boot and then come up with the application already. You can use either systemd or you can use uh, the other init scripts like initd that has the rc.local supported, so that will start up your application automatically. It doesn't mean that the underlying Linux just stops working. For Android, there are, if you are specifically asking about Android, then there is a third party app that allows you to set any application as your home like launcher app, and yeah, I mean, get free DOS, but he's particularly asking about Linux. So for Android, you can just create like a home, like any application, make it into a launcher, and it will run automatically. That's how a lot of people create their shoot Kodi boxes on Android. Is like they just set the Kodi as their default launcher. Right, so we need to enable dbus, um, and hal-d probably not, but I'm going to do anyways. So nano slash of vi slash etc slash rc dot conf. Is it? Yeah. Um, and then We go to bus, enable. What did I press? API. I should have installed Nano first, and then let's check up on our installation, and it says 83 seconds, which is nice. So looks like we are almost there. Yeah, the ETA changes very often, or maybe the ETA is per package. That would mean we are a fair bit off. Ubuntu USB IPTV with M3U playlist. Probably the better way would be to make a systemd service and have it launch at startup, unless it's a GUI application. Then a login based cron job, perhaps, something like that. Or the other way, if it's just a GUI system that uses Xorg, so maybe you want a UI to pop up, what you can do is, instead of having a display, instead of having something load user interface like GNOME or Xface, you can replace that with your application. So X can actually directly execute an app. So if you have a login manager, remove the password or login requirement, make it so that it directly boots into the graphical user interface, and then depending upon which display manager you're using, you can easily just edit a script and add your application instead, or your script, or whatever floats your boat. All right, I mean, while this is going on, I am going to take a small break. I'll have the live stream up, and I'll come back once this all is installed, and I'll have some water in the meantime. The crackling has started again, hasn't it? I hope you guys can't hear. I'll change the mic in the next one. This mic has a weird issue. I'll leave it at that for now. But I will turn off my video, and I will also turn off my sound, and I'll have some water, take a break, and come back. Okay, so that's done. Fair bit of chatter on the channel. Um, right, so we do, I think, need to reboot it because it needs to initialize the dbus, the HALD stuff we enabled. So give it a good old reboot and wait for it. And it's booting up. Whoa, that's a lot of noise. Oh god, so it's still stuck in the unqualified hostname thing. They need to figure out how to get rid of that. It's gonna take a while then, huh? Still sleeping. I think one more try and it will come back to normal. And there it is. So let's try this. Ooh. And it crashed. Yep, no screens found without a current driver. So let's enable i95, i915. Alright, so Intel GPU driver FreeBSD. And to enable that, should install drm-legacy-kmod. and enable the i915kms.ko. That should start our system in GPU mode. So basically they just reuse the Linux kernel driver. Right. Yes, please. 34 seconds, that was not bad. That went terribly bad. I instruction doesn't seem to be going as I liked it to, because I enabled the KMS driver and it just went blank. Oops. I have to wait for it to shut down. Hopefully it does, unless it has kernel panic. In that case, well, no one can do anything and I'll have to force shut it down. Now the problem could be my uh, video capture would interfere somehow. In that case, I have removed the capture device and I'm trying it again. Sometimes the DDC don't match up with the capture device and the monitor plugged in through a Y cable, and that is when problems happen. Let's see, it's at loading kernel modules again. If it goes blank, then it doesn't work, like which it just did. So I'm going to first shut it down and disable the kernel module. I'll try again. I was expecting that, and that's why I decided to do the live stream. This is going to be interesting nonetheless. Let's bring your all displays back. There we go. It was on my end, I had it muted. So, Intel integrated graphics. Uh, shoot, I had to disable the kernel module and I just let it load like that. So go into the single user mode. Which wouldn't load anything. Disable and then get out. And well, it's still loaded it. Boot options, safe mode on, single user on, and boot. So safe mode should disable everything. Oh, please don't load. Oh god, it's not. FreeBSD prevent modules. Right, I'll have to look into this. trying that again. ZRAM should work as is. There should be no issue. I think it should be even better now that it's, I think, LPDDR4 with what the new Pi has. And I just dropped my mic, so sorry to everyone who are on headphones. Um, right, how do I prevent rc.conf from running? It runs on safe mode for some reason. I have enabled that and it's just going to run there as well. Uh, hmm. Says to boot into single user mode and then do what? Like it starts to load, it starts to run the rc.local stuff and it will load. Alright, right. Got the shell. So mount u and root. Right, fsck. Yes. Okay, now we are mounted, and then nano tc rc.conf blacklist this, prevent importing it, and right now I'll have to see what the specific GPU requirements are and if that GPU even works with FreeBSD. But nothing brought about the choice to move over to FreeBSD. I've been trying to experiment with it for a while, and I don't have a system that boots free, that like a spare system that boots FreeBSD. My laptop, for some reason, just kernel panics, and I don't want to deal with it. The other two systems are kind of workstations which are in continuous use, and like this particular one was just extra, so I just have it. Anywho, I'm running FreeBSD on it. It's not going to be the only operating system I run on it. We'll experiment with a lot. This is just kind of the first one. It still is doing that thing. Still stuck at the. We'll wait it out. Right. So let's see what the DRM legacy kmod supports. Okay. Um, right. Hmm. Um, let's see. Let's go with the DRM legacy kmod and see if that works. then nanorc.com. Now I want to see if there's a way to get better resolution. Okay, yeah, there is. So we'll go nano slash etc slash loader. Okay. Con dot pt dot fb dot node and uh, if that doesn't work, there are few more things we can try. But for now, let's save this source. Nope, it takes the weird VGA resolution. And hey, there we kind of go. Oh, that's surprising. The output on the actual capture card looks sane, but on my machine it looks weird. Sweet. Jesus. Again, I'll probably have to work from my capture card then. So we can try starting X and see if that works. At least you guys can see the full picture now, and it's still on the sleeping for what does it say? Sleeping for retry. Man, I'm tired. Right, it is weird because if I turn on the monitor, there are weird lines on the screen recorder, and if I also turn on my monitor, it doesn't really recognize everything pretty well. We'll try with a higher resolution and see if that works for the two people who are watching, which probably means that that's just one person who's watching and then. Right, root, and that's so. But what I want to do is actually start X and nothing. Oh, it's still requires OpenGL 2.1 or later. We don't have that. We actually don't have that. But why does X require OpenGL 2.1 or later? Like on Debian I've just run LXDE with 1.4. That's weird. Let's reboot it. That is very weird. Right. Aha. Now that it's at a proper resolution, the actual stream capture fails spectacularly. I want to try 1280 by 720 if that works. And then we can figure out the OpenGL stuff because that's complete BS that OpenGL 2.1 is required. I need to do something about this. Won't give me the shell again. Right, I might know how to solve this. Maybe Mesa isn't installed. Second. let's see. This should work. Alright, so the people who are asking why there is an Arduino attached to the PC, let me show you. It is my mouse, in fact. I have created using the Leonardo because I didn't have enough space for a mouse that moves, so I needed a stationary mouse. Ball mice are apparently fairly expensive here, so I just bought Arduino Leonardo, which I had with me, and I think bought the joystick shield, and that was a very simple solution to that. Right, hopefully now we have a bit better resolution. Um, oh god. So it's either the capture card that will work properly or my monitor. So I'll stick with the capture card working properly. Alright. Uh, so pkg install. So let's see. Right. So why does it need OpenGL 2.1 or later? Doesn't make any sense. I'm going to try fxfce. Or just xterm for that matter. Why does it need OpenGL 2.1 or later? That's a bummer, because this thing only supports up to OpenGL 1.4. Right, a forum post. Graphics old is apparently a thing. So uh, okay, that one more thing was missing. Let's try now. And hey, there we go. At least X term is up. Next we can try LXDE. What graphics chips? It's Intel integrated graphics 82915G. It supports up to. I'll show you the LSPCI output just in a second. No mouse, right? And no keyboard because didn't set that up, right? And C, and let's get start LXDE here. Uh-oh. I need to find a better place for the mic. Let's wait and watch. We have a mouse and we have a display. I don't know why the GDBus error is there. We did enable dbus, but let's see. Systems tool, LX terminal, and LSPCI, and can see. I'll have to run it again to resize it properly. I have the Intel Corporation 82915G 910GL Intel Integrated Graphics Driver. Yeah. Yep. So pkg search glmark. I'm hoping to find the original version of glmark, but looks like only glmark 2 is there. So I'll install that. glmark 2 is OpenGL 2.0, but it has OpenGL ES 2.0 support, the GPU, so glmark 2 should work if I specifically use the ES2 API, not the glmark 2 thing. Although games like Open Arena don't work, and there are a couple that are just too slow. I was hoping Open Arena worked because it's one of the better games. Wait, Open? Yeah, it doesn't. Open Arena doesn't work. Requires glmark 2. OpenGL 2. So glmark and ES2 and notate. Have fun. Yeah, this is as good as it gets. This is at 800 by 600 resolution. The Intel driver might, the Linux driver might have been slightly better, but I think it's the same. I really think it's the same score. Hey, but it's working now with all the issues with the graphic driver not working initially. I still have to figure out a resolution that the monitor is happy with and the VGA card is happy with. But for now, this seems fine. Right, on next episode, I am, unless the floppy drive emulator and a couple more things arrive. The next live stream, I'd probably be installing Arch Linux straight up on that 80 gig hard drive that I have. We have been going on it for about 2.5 hours. That's not bad. So yeah, graphics performance not that good. Yeah, a lot of cheaper single boards computer are much faster than this thing. Much faster. But a lot of them then also don't have working GPUs, don't have PCI slots, SATA ports. I mean, yeah, everyone's catching up, but this is showing its age. That's why it's retro. That's why it's a retro live stream and not, hey, I got something, let's do stuff on it. I so the funny part is when I use this, because this is a single core machine, it's not the dual core P Pentium 4 version. I kind of feel like I'm back to using the single core Raspberry Pi, although P4 is much faster than the old Raspberry Pi 1. But the reason I feel it, because you can, after using like multi-core machines for so long, you can really feel how like the single core load switches, and how your background task is now slower, or your background task is taking more CPU utilization than the task that you're working on, and that kind of pauses for a while. So yeah, that issue, that kind of is more obvious. I'm sure if this was the dual core variant, it like just would have not cared as much, and you wouldn't have known. Yeah, that's that. And nothing has crashed. It's just like, yeah, sometimes a lot of the GL Mark II examples won't work on this. Right, I'm waiting for the score, and then I'll probably call it today. Well, instead of Vine, why not just use React OS? I'm kind of leaning towards that now. Tired. Right, score of 40. The Raspberry Pi's original GPU was much faster than this. So, anyways, thank you everyone for watching and sticking around. Official Gaming TV. Thank you very much for all the chats and keeping me busy. Um, and I'll see you all in the next one. Shutting this one down. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.